Also want to thank the Screen Actors Guild Foundation, Screen Actors Guild, and Breakdown Services, the Virtual Channel Network. We are in partnership tonight with the Virtual Channel Network as the Screen Actors Guild Foundation, and this is the final series for our Prep for Pilot series tonight. All the events in the past are available in the archives at sagfoundation.org on the video gallery on the home page. Just look in the Life Raft video gallery. The Virtual Channel Network, for those who don't know, is the network for the entertainment industry created by the entertainment industry, presented by Breakdown Services, VCN's goal is to provide programming of interest to actors, casting, talent representatives, directors, producers, and studio and network executives. So a big thanks to our partners tonight, the Virtual Channel Network, Seth Colton and Gary Marsh, and all their whole team for all the incredible work they've done with helping with the panels and putting this together. Thank you so much, Seth. Yeah. Thank you, Mom. No. Quick note of reminder, vote for the SAG Awards. Your votes are due by tomorrow, January 28th, by high noon Pacific time. Go to www.sagawards.org/voting. Also, a quick disclaimer, anything that is said tonight doesn't necessarily mean an endorsement or is the responsibility of the Screen Actors Guild Foundation or the Virtual Channel Network or the Screen Actors Guild for that matter. Anything of importance to you, we advise you to please, or ask you to seek your own advice and make up your own mind. Having said that, we have an incredible panel tonight for Prep for Pilot Season 2011, The Work. And I'd like to introduce our moderator tonight. Please welcome Bryan Burra.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all for coming. It's going to be a great panel tonight. I'd just like to thank Simon Anthony Abu Fadal for having us. And man, what a name he's got. You know, my parents gave me 4 names as well, but I chose to just stick with 2 of them. So thank you to him. You know, I'm just kidding. He's got a great name, and I will never forget his name from this point on. Anyways, I'd also like to thank Breakdown Services Virtual Channel Network for putting this all together, especially Seth Colton, Otto Woolfolk, and Jenna Pass. You know, without them, tonight's show wouldn't have been as good, and, you know, they put together a really excellent panel for everybody. So I think it's really going to be great tonight. You know, I've watched Virtual Channel Network a few times, and I got to say I've learned so much from just watching that. Learned just about as much from my own blood, sweat, and tears in this industry. So if you're not watching it after tonight's show, you should probably tune in and check it out. So tonight, got a great panel for you, expert panel of A-list acting coaches and casting directors. So I'm really excited. I think that they're really going to help you prep for pilot season and your acting careers as well. You know, auditions are really a tough process for everyone, especially during pilot season, and especially for the actors. You know, they have so many auditions to go through, and there's so much that happens in a short amount of time. And sometimes the actors have 2, 3 auditions in one day, and they get the sides the night before, and it's impossible. You guys know how it is, and I'm sure most of you at home know what it feels like to be under that kind of pressure. So tonight we're going to have a great panel for you. They're going to come out, as I said, help you prep for pilot season, help you prep for your acting careers, really help you get the auditions done, you know, and hopefully book the parts. So without further ado, moment you guys have all been waiting for. Drum roll, please. I'd like to introduce tonight's panel. So tonight we have Pamela Shea, who's the former executive in charge of talent and casting for Spelling Television Incorporated, where she was the executive in charge of shows such as Charmed, the original Melrose Place, the original Beverly Hills 90210, Summerland, and over 50 titles that include pilots, movies of the week, all while she maintained the current shows. Currently, she's attaching talent to films and producing such films as Box of Shadows, which is due out later this year, and working on Red Gold, as well as privately coaching actors for auditions and on set. Please welcome the former magician's assistant and actress and model, Pamela Shea. Next is Jory Wheats. He's been a casting director for most of his adult life, casting features such as Blade and Nacho Libre. And he also segued into producing with the cult classic Napoleon Dynamite. He also worked as the casting director on that. He continues to work as a casting director and producer. So let's please welcome Jory Wheats. Next is R.J. Adams. He's like the Swiss Army knife of Hollywood. Does a little bit of everything. R.J.'s had a lengthy career in film and television as an actor since the 80s, starring in such shows as General Hospital, Kojak, Hill Street Blues, plenty of others. He worked as a documentary producer and has had a long run as a radio personality all over the United States. Mr. Adams founded the Actors Workshop in 1980, and which is currently ranked as the 3rd best acting school in California. He is also the film acting coach for the Virtual Channel Network's Coaching Corner. Please welcome R.J. Adams. Next is Margie Haber. Oh, excuse me.
Sit next to him. He's deathly ill.
Are you?
Yes. It's all right. It's all right.
Hello.
He's not contagious. Yeah. Okay, next is Margie Haber. She is the audition goddess. Besides her studio in Los Angeles, she teaches all over the world, from Ireland to Germany, Amsterdam, London, and most recently in Indonesia and Australia. Margie teaches actors how to stop acting. She's the author of How to Get the Part Without Falling Apart. Margie's students include Brad Pitt, Halle Berry, Vince Vaughn, Mariska Hargitay, and many, many more. Please welcome Margie Haber.
Absolutely. I'm not sick. Well, not physically.
Hi.
Next, we have Nancy Nair, who grew up in Boston, Massachusetts. She attended NYU, where she studied with Lee Strasberg. Soon discovered the joy of casting when she had an internship at the Manhattan Theater Club. At 24, she became the VP of feature film casting for Universal Studios, where she stayed for 14 years until she opened up her own casting company in 1998. In addition to comedies like Road Trip, The Whole 10 Yards, and Nim's Island, she also developed a niche in the horror genre with such films as The Grudge, Exorcism of Emily Rose, and the upcoming Scream 4. She recently launched a blog called auditionmojo.com with articles and advice for actors to help them unravel the mysteries of the casting process. Please welcome Nancy Nair. Okay, enough butt kissing for one night, huh? Let's, I wanted to, oh.
Yeah.
Sharon, I miss Sharon.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Don't tell her. Oh yeah, I got it. Sharon has been a private acting coach since 1980s in Los Angeles and New York. She worked at the Lee Strasberg Theater Institute, as well as for Warren Robertson and Larry Moss. Prior to that, she was the lead actress in numerous plays and has had her fair share of film and television roles. She currently has her own studio in Los Angeles, the Sharon Chatton Studio. Here is Sharon Chatton. There she is. And I should say last but not least. Thanks for coming, everybody. I really appreciate it. Thank you to the panel. This is a great expert panel for you guys tonight. You guys are really going to learn a lot. It's going to be fun. It's going to be informative. So I'm really excited. Now, I'd like to kind of go one by one and give you each 2 minutes to just kind of give a more in detailed biography about yourself, how you got here today, how you got into casting director or acting coaching, stuff like that. So Pamela Shea, go ahead.
Okay, great. Basically, I started out as an actor and worked part-time and maintained part-time jobs in between and kept thinking if I could do this every day kind of thing, and drifted off in different directions. Honestly, I had over 30 jobs before I ended up at Spelling. Some I kept for a month and moved on, some for a couple of weeks. So throughout all of that, it was a wealth of knowledge that I attained not only as being an actress and going through the casting process, and when I did work, what that was all about, which was a whole different mystery. But when I got on the other side, and then I got on the other side because I needed money, and I needed to get back on my feet. And the third place I temped was Spelling Television. And I didn't quite understand what they did. I knew Aaron Spelling, certainly. We all grew up watching his shows. I came on in the 90s, and the first show that we had was 90210. It was just a script. And Fox was a brand new network, and that was really the early beginnings. Through the course, I worked my way up to coordinator of talent, manager of talent, director of talent, and I took over the department in '96 as executive in charge of talent and casting for Spelling Television, which oversaw all the casting, all the pilots that we did, all the movies of the week, mid-season shows, a little bit of everything. And through that, I started coaching actors for auditions because I wanted them to get the part. And it really sort of evolved from there. And I was so fortunate to work for a man, Aaron Spelling, who was the most prolific producer of all time, who had success after success, and very pleased that the pilots that I had started went 8, 9 years. Seventh Heaven went 12 years. I pre-read Jessica Biel when she was only 14 and put her through, and the rest is history, you know. So it's really special when something like that happens, that you have that instinct. But what I do now is I share the knowledge with actors. I hopefully will take away the mystery that I had. You never know why you didn't get hired, what you could have done differently, and it's giving you sort of tips, because why every single person in this room is unique and different. All of us are different, so you can't compare yourself to anybody else. You've got to just be the best at who you are and evolve from that and shine and stand out, and how am I going to remember you? And it's all about that. And that was something that I extended to actors. And the best advice I can give you, if I don't squeeze this in tonight, it's all about adapting. You have to adapt to every situation. Every casting director, every tone of every show that you're going for, every network works differently. Some are more conservative, some are more freewheeling. You gotta know what you're heading into. You gotta know who your showrunners are, how they like to work, and adapt. And if you're redirected on anything after you've made a choice with the material, after you've auditioned, be able to take that redirection. And that just shows you that the director, shows the director that you're somebody that he can work with, or that she can work with. And there's so much more that I could go into with that, but that's just an early beginning. So.
Shori, you're up next.
It's a tough one to follow there. First off, I'm just apologizing for my voice. I mean, I have nothing transmittable here, but
I've heard this before.
Yes, I have lab results, you know. But if my voice goes out, I can use hand puppets or interpret.
Lab results? I'm gone.
So I'm sorry.
Speak up.
Oh, okay. So I started off in New York, and I was not genetically engineered or designed to kind of get into this field. I kind of accidentally stumbled into it because I was working for a record company in New York, and we were putting up music that promoted street crime for like adolescent kids, and so I kind of had a moral sort of like crisis there. And when we were one day, Juliet Taylor, who does all of the Woody Allen films, I guess they were feng shuiing her office or doing something, and she happened to just squat in her office for a couple of weeks, and I had no idea what casting was, or but it was like getting like sucked into some Fellini REM cycle or something. I just saw like these. I mean, I really thought like casting directors were talent scouts, because she would go out and troll around in restaurants in Brooklyn or something and get all these extra chromosome kind of like, miscreant kind of looking sideshow looking people. And so I just kind of, I said, this looks like a different form of psychosis than I've been exposed to in my record industry world. And so I walked into it, and I think it was one of those things. I had this dormant Rain Man gene that must have just was on, or it was on dimmer, and I just stepped into it, and it was just one of those things that it just was this explosion, and I think that appreciation for actors and really getting. I don't think I didn't have that kind of visceral connection before. I was just more in the abstract, just going out and being, a fan of film, and I started going to theater. I was like, it's just this insatiable appetite. I was just like, just sucking it in and binging and gorging on it, and it was just really just this great kind of like discovery. It's almost like for actors, that's what it's about for you. That's your mantra, about discovery and reinvention, and kind of the unexplored and the unknown. And so I kind of felt it was like this, not like taking this parallel course. It was just this weird intersection that I had no preconceived notions or ideas about. And so I think that's why I've always loved actors, and just kind of the whole process, and empowering actors, and really helping them as artists to kind of find their voices. And so it's like that kind of synergistic kind of, or symbiotic kind of like connection there that I think casting directors have with actors. I don't know if actors always understand that, but that feeds us as much as it feeds you guys. So anyway, there you go.
Thank you.
What are you talking
I
about?
have no idea. It's the meds. It's the meds.
The only reason I'm here tonight is I need friends on Facebook, okay?
Yes.
Now look, I'm not very good at talking about myself, so whatever it was Pamela said goes for me too. Okay? She got a great resume. I'm done. I always wanted to be in radios, but I ended up going to the Neighborhood Playhouse in New York in 1959. This is 59 BCE. Okay? And was with the legendary James Carville, Sandy Meisner, Charles Conrad, who I later studied with. This is before the legend of Meisner, spread out through the entire country. But I wanted to be in radio, and I was there for 2 years and didn't know why the hell I was there. And what am I doing here, But I wanted to be in radio. Eventually, I got there and then wanted to be an actor once I was in radio. I mean, talk about a quandary. But I've been an acting coach now and an actor for 40 years, and I've done a lot of episodic television and some features. Worked with Stallone and Rocky IV. That was 1985 BCE. It seemed a long time ago. And he was great to work with, very down-to-earth guy. A lot of good directors. I've been very fortunate. And at the same time, working in LA radio at KFI, did afternoon drive there for 5 years. And recently, I was at K-Earth 101 playing the oldies, rocking out, The old guys still have it. We can rock and roll with the best. Aretha Franklin, respect, baby. You know what I mean? You hear me talking. So it's been a good role. Been an acting coach now, be 31 years in April. I think Sharon and I share basically the same anniversary in length of time. And I am a big believer in the product that you are out there selling is you. And I'm a purist from that standpoint. I don't think that actors act. I think they react. And I think that's the key to doing the whole shebang. Now, casting's a little bit different, and I know Margie's probably going to talk more on this subject, kind of forte, right?
I don't know yet. I can't wait to hear what I'm going to say.
Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you right now. Here's what I want you to say when I give you the mic. She talked about cold readings. The auditioning process is, to me, nothing more than selling your product. You compartmentalize, because what you do in the auditioning process is not the same as what you do when you get on the set. I mean, I went in and read for a director once for a series that it was on for a very short time, I think 30 seconds, called, what was it, Street Hawk. And I go in and do the reading, and everyone was, the director and producer there, and they were very impressed and everything. When we got on set, downtown LA, about a week later, I went to the director, who was pretty novice at this, and I said, well, am I going to do the same thing I did in the reading? And he said, what'd you do in the reading? And that was my Edith Bunker moment. I went, oh, so that's the way it is. They're like casting you, and they know that they got it right, and now you got the job. And once you do the job, well, then you're doing the job. You're on the set and you're doing something very different than what you did in casting, because in casting, I believe you're working by yourself. On the set, you're working with the other actor. You're always with the other actor. The other actor feeds you. Hey, that's it for me. Margie Haber. You want to introduce her, Bryan?
Margie
Wow,
Haber.
I don't know what to say. I don't even know what to say. I think there's a bunch of altacacas up here. That means old shits, for the... We've all been around a long time in this group, I see. You're funny.
Yeah?
Yeah, you could take my class. We'd have a good time.
I'll take it.
Okay.
Nothing like the big green, She's making it.
Hi, everybody. How is everyone today? That's all I got to say, because I just came rushing from doing God knows how many privates today for exactly what we're here for, which is to talk about the pilot season. And it is, thank God I took my medications, because it's just amazing how it changes once it comes like January, and bada boom, bada beam, people all of a sudden are panicked, and the cast directors panicked, and the agents are panicked, and the directors are panicked. I'm passing out Xanax to every single person I know in this industry, because it's a tough time. It's a very tough time. I've been doing this for 193 years, and usually it's a joke because everyone's young, so I feel like this group understands what I'm saying here. And I've been doing it a long, long time, and I do it for one reason, seriously, because I love what I do. I'm good at what I do, and I love people, and I love people to stop acting, and that's what I teach. I think there's way too much acting going on. And I'm interesting because I've never been on a panel with other acting coaches, and it's an interesting debate, because I don't really believe that the audition process is different than anything. I think it's just that in whatever you do, whether it be an audition or whether it be shooting for film or doing a theater play or doing commercial, you live the life. And it's just an opportunity to live the life. And I guess what I think of myself as, after doing this for as many years as I've done it, is how much I've grown in so many years, and that I'm a better teacher today than I was yesterday and the day before, because I believe that my job is to teach people to embrace their imperfections and not be actors. And in that process, I change. And that's what makes me love it, because I feel that myself as Margie Haber is different and more, and so rewarded by my students who I love deeply, deeply. And I don't think you have to be an acting coach who is the guru where you're distant. I've had those. They're all dead by now, which is really quite amazing. All my old acting coaches, whether it be Lee Strasberg, Milton Casellas, and all the people I studied with over the years. And I guess the biggest thing for me was I didn't like being treated as if I was below them. It's bad enough to be an actor on the bottom of a totem pole, but to be treated as if these acting coaches thought they knew everything, and I was a small person. I can remember sitting in, and mind you, they were very creative people. Harvey Lembeck was one of the great of all time. I'm sure you remember Harvey Lembeck, this group. But I would sit in the corner praying he wouldn't call on me because I was so intimidated. And there were people in the class that was, and this just shows you how old I am. I think I'm the oldest here. I just look good. I color my hair. But I think I'm pretty old. But my mother's 100, and so I have her genes. And I always thank her for that. So I'm sitting in Harvey's class, I can remember this vividly, and praying he didn't call me because all of the MASH people were there. It was before when the pilot was made, and Johnny Ritter was there, and it was always about performing. They got up there and they all clapped and performed and thought it was the greatest thing. It's so opposite of what I do. I used to walk into Milton's class and just tell you this, the way I felt. It just wasn't for me because there were 190,000 people there, and he never said hi, and I always felt like I was a small person. And Lee Strasberg, and I even taught there for a little bit, I always felt like, I actually was in a scholarship in 1970. I'll show you how old I am. If I tell you how old I am, you promise you'll say, I can't believe it? I'm going to out myself. I'm going to see what a good actress you are, okay? I will be. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
March 30th, so I want a card from everybody. I will be 65. Am I the oldest here? Am I the oldest? You can clap on that. It's my mother's genes. It's totally my mother's genes. It's amazing, isn't it? So
I think
now
we
I
need
forgot
to
where I
get
was
some
after all
Academy playoff music
What?
too. I think we need to get some Academy Awards playoff music here,
Yeah, it's
so we
pretty-
can pass it on to the next person.
It pretty shocks me, I'll tell you. So the bottom line I'm trying to say to you is that when I studied there, I know these places, I was so intimidated, and I was frightened all the time. And then I studied with a man who just unfortunately passed away, named Corey Allen. He was my mentor. He was the Rebel Without a Cause. Who's, I don't know if anybody knows him here. I'm sure you guys know about him.
I've worked with him, yeah.
If anyone worked with him, knows him. Okay, he was the man who made me who I am today. I give credit to him all the time, and I talk about him in my book that I wrote years ago here. About he made me understand that it's all about relationship, and that there is no difference between auditioning or anything else. It's about what I do. I guess the best I do of is I teach people to do it quickly and thoroughly, which is a hard thing to do. You may be able to do it thoroughly, but you might not be able to do it quickly. And so I do that combination of both. I think that's the most difficult thing to do. And so I'm honored every day because I have a studio here in Los Angeles. I have 6 teachers that teach for me here, and a studio in New York and in Dublin and in Atlanta, and I teach all over. And I just went to Jakarta, and I don't want to take up too much time because I know it's supposed to be 2 minutes each. I know mine's now 20. But I just got to say one thing. Actors are all the same. Wherever you taught. I'm a nice Jewish girl who went to Jakarta. I mean, an experience that I'll never forget, mind you, this summer, and was really nervous. I mean, carry a Canadian purse, you're not American, don't tell them you're Jewish, and they're all the same. They went and prayed for an hour and a half, but they're all the same, no matter where I teach, no matter where I go. Actors are just human beings. And they're afraid to allow themselves to share their imperfections. So I think if you want to know what I teach and what I believe in the whole thing is I believe that it's about the connection and about embracing your imperfections. And I'm not used to sharing stages, so I got to move on. Go ahead, Nancy.
Next is Nancy. Nancy, I'm going to enforce the 2-minute rule on this here. I've got a stopwatch.
Do you have that music playing? Like at
yeah.
the, yeah. Okay. That you were talking about that before. Okay, I'll just say that how I made the transition from acting to, because when I was 13, I was at Summer Stock Theater, and I studied at Strasberg, and I really wanted to be an actress. But then I kind of figured the really cool way to get that inside scoop and find out what casting directors never tell the actors after the audition, because they don't have time, is to do an internship in casting. But I still wanted to be an actress. So I went to Manhattan Theater Club, and I'd grown up going to New York theater weekends from Boston with my parents, and seen amazing Broadway shows. So my first 2 days as the intern, my first 2 days at that internship, they were having equity principal interviews. If you've heard of those, they basically have this open door policy for all the off-Broadway theaters for people who either have agents, don't have great agents, don't have any agents, and it's just to sort of say hello and check in and with the actors in the community. So my first 2 days on the job, I was put in a theater at a table, and there was a line around the block of actors, and I got to interview them. And by the end of the 2 days, I knew I wanted to be in casting because I saw so many of the performers that I had seen growing up that had just wowed me on stage on Broadway. And I thought, I think my destiny is to help those people and help them get work and not compete with them, because I was just so awed by their talent. So it just became very clear then that was going to change my life. So I came to Universal and sort of prematurely wound up running their casting department for feature films at 24. And that was sort of like being thrown in the water and learning to swim. But it was amazing to have studio experience, to work with directors that we had in-house deals with, like Steven Spielberg and Ron Howard and Oliver Stone and Spike Lee. And it was just an amazing group of filmmakers to work with. And it was a great learning curve, because I really was just shocked to get the job so young, and I just had to learn how to swim. So 14 years there, I really saw, thousands of auditions, and then left and started my own freelance company where I did more independent film work and pilots, and some television commercials. And so I've seen the gamut, and it's just been really pleasurable to see all the range of the casting process in all those different areas. And the thing that I would say now that I've started also helping actors through coaching myself too is how to grow your courage, because I think nerves are something that, like, I think everyone does probably a lot of times really brilliant performances in their living rooms, and then they go into the casting office and something changes. I don't know, magically. The performance is affected by the audition room and personalities of the people in it. And so one of the things that I like to share is ways to get through those nerves and put them aside and sort of deal with them, conquer them, and let your performance shine through. So.
Thank you, Nancy. And Sharon?
Hi, everybody.
2 minute strict
yeah,
time.
I won't talk very much at all. I was an actress and member of the Actors Studio, and Strasberg asked me to teach at the Institute. I did that and taught for Larry. And but I was acting. I played, Liviu Ciulei directed a Brecht play, Jungle of Cities, with Al Pacino, and I played a sister. And Arthur Penn directed a wonderful play, Hillbilly Women, and I was one of the 7 women in that. Ilya Kazan wrote and directed a play that I was in and had a major role in. And I was around, fortunately, for Harold Clurman and Stella Adler and my mentor, Strasberg, and Uda. And all of these people are on, I mean, you can go to YouTube and see these great master teachers. All of them were masters online and watch them teach. It's so wonderful. Anyway, I stopped acting when I had children. And I found where I'm supposed to be. I love to teach. I've been teaching for 31 years, and I agree with my panelists, and we love you. We just really do. And when Strasberg died, I was asked by Ellen Burstyn to speak at the memorial, and I remember, I'm shaking, I'm so nervous I don't go up in front of people except my class. But Lee, I thought, why it's his family, like, why do they want me to talk, you know, and represent the students? And now that I'm much older, and I understand, we really care about you. I mean, you're really important to us because it's exciting. It's an art. And I agree that whether it's an audition or you work, every little moment that you work, it's not about booking it. It's how you felt as an artist in that room in that moment, and you let it go and go on to the next thing. So anything, let's turn it over to helping you with pilot season. Okay.
Okay, thank you to all the panelists. I'm going to jump right in here. So Pamela, I'm going to start with you. Let's talk about the first moment that your agent calls you for an audition. What's the first thing that an actor needs to do to prepare him or herself?
Well, one of the things is, the first thing that we do is either give the agent the full script, if it's a pilot, and especially if it's a bigger part that would be a series regular. I was responsible for the series regulars for our shows, and it depends on, sometimes you need big names, sometimes you need unknowns, depending on what your budget is. But it starts out really with the script or the sides. So let's say you get 2 pages of sides for a role, and it shows me enough range within that, so I'm going to be able to tell what your ability is. Now, I personally don't like to do cold reads with actors. I don't think it's unfair. I think it's unfair to actors because it doesn't give you enough time to really dissect the material and to make interesting choices with what you feel is in that material. The thing of it is, those are not your words. They're a writer's words. But you have to make me believe that you are saying those words and that you are that person, whether it's a magician's assistant that you've never done before, or whether it's you know, a bank robber or whatever. Hopefully nobody's done that. But you've got to make us believe that you are that character. So you've got to give yourself enough leeway with it. So I like to give actors at least one night, if not longer, with that material. So what you have to do is you have to look at it and you have to say, why is my character saying what it's saying? And why is the other person responding the way that they are? There has to be a connect. it can't be two talking heads, because that sticks out like a sore thumb. And it's very distracting, and it takes me out of the scene where I want to be in the scene. I want to see that you're meshing and that there's a connect. Now, when you first start, of course, you're reading with the casting director. So sometimes casting directors won't give you a lot of emotion with the character because they've heard it 9,000 times, and they're kind of over it. They're kind of, I don't care how well it's written, but they're kind of done, except one of you out there will come in and bring it this new refreshing spin that just kind of like perks me up, and it's refreshing and it's interesting and it's different. And that's the person I'm going to remember, and that's the person I'm going to pull to the side. Now, what you have to realize, how much can you go beyond that safe box? You have to be careful. You don't want to go too far the other way, because that's maybe could be too risky, but sometimes it works. Sometimes it is just a generic kind of thing, very close to maybe who you are, that you know you can play, you've heard this language before, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to know when you can give me those rhythms and those ups and downs that I need, and to show me range. And if you can do that, and if I redirect you, or if I bring you to producers and, like I said, the director redirects you, make sure that you can take that redirection. Don't be a robot at home over-rehearsing. That's the biggest mistake that a lot of actors make. They cannot break out of those rhythms that they've worked on at home. You've got to be able to be pliable. The best actors are. So that's, for me, that's really where it first starts. Does that answer?
Sounds great. Yeah, absolutely. And as Pamela said, you know, short notice is kind of part of the game sometimes. So, Jory, I'd like the next question to be for you. You know, actor gets very short notice the night before and doesn't really have time to prepare. Do you think it's better for that actor to reschedule, cancel, not show up, or just go in and kind of wing it?
No, I think, you know, it's, again, I've gotten into, I'm coaching now too, and before as a casting director, I have the script, I have the director, the producer, you know, all their appendages, I'm inside their head, I know exactly what they're thinking. Now, as a coach, I've been actually not reading, sometimes I'm not reading the whole script, and I get it the night before, you know, because that's, you know, because of the kind of rapidity of you know, the auditions and when they come up. And so I basically, I'm right there with the actors. You know, it's like I have the sides and the breakdown. And in that short amount of time, you know, I feel like, you know, it's about creating a world. You know, it's like, you know, it's once I think you develop that sort of insight and that consciousness and that discipline about discovery and about, you know, I guess really knowing that self-awareness, I think, as an actor. You know, since I started coaching, I kind of see that more so than I did as a casting director. That I think a lot of times there's like a split that almost opens up in an actor because of fear or self-doubt or something. And like someone was saying before, you know, you nail it when you're in the shower, you know, or the cab ride coming over, and then, you know, you're in a different place, just like you were saying before about, you know, the audition versus like once you're on the set, that adaptability, you know, and I think it's really about that self-awareness, you know, like if you're not self-aware, if that split it opens up in your consciousness, you don't really know when you're making safe choices, and I think that's where the fear steps in for people maybe getting the script the night before. I think actors have that ability, you know, once that fusion happens in their, you know, in their being, that to be able to find a way to, you know, to build a character, build a subtext, and be prepared, for, you know, for the next day. I don't think it's unfair necessarily, and I think unless you just really feel like you can't find your way in, then you have that choice.
Can I add something to that too? Yeah. Just that sometimes on a set, film, television pilot, whatever, you're going to get script pages the night before. You're going to get them a few hours before. So to me, a lot of that auditioning process, that last minute process, it's a great thing to learn how to not have that phase you, because that might happen on the set. So.
Great, thank you. So RJ, since you're the master of all trades here, if you have, say, more...
Why are you putting me in that position?
You know, you've got
I'm a one-dimensional guy.
You've got a great voice, so we'll go with you.
Okay.
If you have, say, more than one audition in a day, what would you...
That's not likely. That's not likely in 1 month. Okay.
How would you tell the actors to prepare or handle the situation?
I tell all my actors, if you get an audition, you get a chance to go in and read. You go in the door, you remain calm, drop on your knees, and beg for the part. And more of my guys are beginning work because of that. They plead. They're very good at pleading. We teach pleading. What was your question? Oh, okay. How to prepare for the part. Well, you're going to hear different opinions up here, obviously. You know, not everyone's going to say the same thing, but I think you benefit yourself by taking a little something away from everyone, putting it in your little data bank, and I think that'll help you. When I say compartmentalize, and there's a difference between when you are in the reading room or the auditioning process to when you get on the set. Margie alluded to the fact that you're always living life. Well, you're sitting there living life now. I mean, I hope. This is not the LA City morgue, and I'm making a fool out of myself, you know. The difference is what Pamela mentioned, that the casting director, in a lot of cases, really doesn't give you anything. It's not their job to be the actor. It's the actor's job to be the actor. And so therefore, when you go in, you have a mind thing that you're doing. And the mind thing is you have to determine, by looking at the sides, your place within that scene that you're about ready to go in and read for the producers, the directors, whoever, that you fit within that particular scene for that character that they're looking for. Okay? A lot of that's in your head because you're going to be acting alone, because you're not going to get the feedback that you would get from another actor on the set. It's not there. Now, that's not condescending to the casting directors here, but that's what happens. I mean, a lot of the times they're whispering when you go in to read for these people, and sometimes they're overacting. And the way you compensate for that is you make very solid choices out in the hallway of what you're going to do, whether it's energy, how you're going to place yourself. Above all, you bring yourself into that room. You have to be grounded in the person you are. You have to be very solid with that, because you're always going to be the character, and the character is always going to be you. You know, you might walk with a limp. You know, but think of all the great actors with legendary careers: Morgan Freeman, Clint Eastwood. I mean, you can go on. They've been in business for 50 years. Who are they always playing? I mean, how many times can you hear Eastwood say, "Get off my lawn"? Here's a better one. "Go ahead, make my day." And they're 30 years apart. I mean, the key to all of that is that they are very grounded in who they are, and that's one of the reasons they're box office. So in the auditioning process, you are set in knowing and making your choice in the hallway to go in and suit yourself for that particular role in that particular scene. Because you already are there, the fact that you have a headshot and they've decided you already kind of fit the role, you're 50% there. Now it's a personality test. So if I'm going in to play one of the Sopranos, let's say, that goes back in the air, and they see my headshot and say, "Well, RJ looks like he can be Tony Soprano's cousin." And I walk in the door and I'm like, "Hey, Bachelagana. Hey, what's going on?" And I don't do that. And I go, "Hi, how's everyone today?" I'm not going to get that part. They're going to say, no, it's all wrong. We'll bring him back for the flower shop scene, you know. Yeah. But when you get on the set, thank you. When you get on the set, the other actor will give you all the business you need. It's a business of reacting. And I'm very grounded in that. I'm a big believer.
You do know after this is over, we're going to do the comic store over the improv store, and he's going to be.
You're just jealous. Go on, do your thing.
Can I comment about what that is?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. I mean, I don't know how we're doing this, but no, I think you're funny. I like you.
I like you too. And we're both 65, going on 70.
All right, baby. No, I'm not 65 yet. Give me a moment. You know, I come from a very different place than what they're saying, so you know, it's just different. Let's just say it the way I approach it. I don't believe that you guys should go in there try to impress anybody. I think you need to express, not impress. I don't believe that you walk in there hoping to get the part. I think that's a very sad thing to think that that's your
In all fairness, I never said any of that.
Oh, no, I'm just saying what I believe in. No, I don't believe that you go, and I believe that if you have 45 opportunities to live 45 lives by having 45 auditions, that's your goal. And it's a sad, I had somebody 2 days ago who went up for a wonderful, wonderful, I don't use the word part. I just don't use these acting terms is the point. I don't use the word audition anymore. It's a slice of life to me. But and it went in to live the life of this person who was a cross-gender, really quite an amazing thing. And he went in and he lived it. He lived it for 3 days. It was 3 days before he got to work with me on it. We worked on it. He came over to my house and borrowed my clothes. And dressed up in this great outfit because he was going to be,
I'd like to do
transgender.
that.
You can come over anytime you want. I don't know. We'll decide that later. But he was a transgender, and he was just. And this guy's, he's far from a transgender. It was just, and he borrowed my clothes. He went out, and the next day he went in. He got a call back, and he came back and worked with me. The process that we had of enjoying that experience was so fabulous. They didn't go with him, and they didn't go with him for many reasons why. A, he's very new to it, and B, because he was different than their quote choice. But that's not the game to me, guys. The game to me is, wow, I had the opportunity to live that person's life for a day, for 2 days, for 3 hours, for 4 days. If you wait for that one time, you're going to be depressed the rest of your life. The pilot season is attending you now. It's starting. It's a game of how many times you can go out. But you've got to go out experiencing the life of the person and not wanting to get the job. It's fantastic to get it, but it doesn't happen enough. So to me, that's what I really wanted to make sure that's really clear about. Do you have a question for me now?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, a lot of these actors are out here and watching on the internet, and they're thinking to themselves, well, our acting coach is really necessary. I can go run it in front of the camera. I can prepare by myself. Do you think that acting coaches are absolutely necessary for everyone?
Well, I'm a little prejudiced because I'm an acting coach, but it's a team. I think you have a team out there, and I hope you have a good team. The team consists of a really wonderful manager who supports you, and an agent who gets you bookings, and a photographer, and whatever, and you have, and hopefully a really good acting coach, you want to call it that, who helps you live lives. You can't do it all on your own, and you have to be very careful, I believe. There's not a lot of money. You don't have a lot of money, so you've got to be very careful about being specific about who you choose to work with and what's important to you. So I have a lot of classes that I teach, and I do private works with people. So I know my students really well, and when I've been working with them for a long time, I know their idiosyncrasies, and so it's wonderful when I know them that well, and that I can say to Bryan, who I worked with yesterday, who just got this movie. This is you. I know you. This is what you need to bring that part of you out. You don't need to show anything. You just need to believe that the relationship is the most important thing. And so for me, when I'm working with somebody, I know I have the triggers. And this morning, I worked with somebody who I just came from New York, who's a wonderful actress, and it was fantastic for me to work with her because I've never met her before. So the challenge was both of us getting to know each other during that particular time. And what was great was we talked each other's language. She understood my language. It's like therapy. You got to find the right one for you. You know what I mean? And she and I, we connected. And I think you need to look for the person who's going to be able to bring the most of you out, and not make you play the character, which is another major problem.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Nancy, I'm going to move on to you. Let's say an actor is preparing and makes some serious choices, and they get to the audition, and the casting director has something completely different in mind for them. What would you suggest to the actors? Should they kind of scrap what they've got and go with kind of something new off, kind of wing it? Or do you think that the actor should say, okay, I'm gonna give you what I've prepared first, and then maybe you can make some changes? How would you say you should go about that?
Well, backing up to the sort of origin of the situation, I would hope that we wouldn't do that to actors if we could avoid it. I mean, I know that I wouldn't want to sort of throw a complete out of left field curveball at you if possible, if you'd been told the character's a certain thing and you've prepared that. But at the same time, just like being given new pages on the set, you are being hired not just for that brilliant performance, RJ said it, that you did in the audition. You're being hired to take direction from a director. And so your ability to flow in that kind of situation, you know, raises your stock in the process. You know, you just might love the reading that you did, but the director just has a different vision, and it could be in the moment on the set as well. So you have to be flexible and malleable and able to flow with any situation. And I think if you, like Margie was saying, if you're true to that, something sort of essential, and you're not worried about, well, what does everyone want, and you just come from more of the core of the real character, you can make those changes. I think it's that stuckness of, I've rehearsed a certain way, and I'm really invested in that way I rehearsed, and it gets people in trouble in this situation.
Don't you find that people play the idea, and when they get stuck, that's what I find, is that they have come an idea of what this casting director wants. They then memorize it. I'm not big on the memorizing thing. Memorizing it, and they get it down real pat. They come in, you give them a little change, and what happens is they can't do it because they've already set themselves. They've set it. And just in that quick, I just want to say one thing, because I think this is kind of helpful to you guys. The person in front of you that's reading with you is there. They exist. Don't ignore them. If you are living the life of somebody who's angry, then you should be, I can't say bad words, huh? Okay. You should be able to say, you know what? You should be able to use that as part of what's going on. If I'm angry at my husband because he's having an affair with somebody, and this person who's reading with me is now looking at me, I damn well I'm going to use that. That's part of it. Don't ignore what's not being given to you. It's still a relationship. You cannot shut yourself off and close yourself off and just play your idea, because you will not be fresh and in the present now, and mistakes are your friends. You hope that something is screwed up.
Well, just one point on that to interject is that the casting director does not have a relationship with you. I beg to differ on that, because they're not there to do that. They're there to feed you the lines. Okay, so if you come in...
I disagree.
Okay. All right, well, that's why I said in the onset, I don't want to anger any of the casting directors up here. I do want to get a little bit of work yet. I do have a future. But anyway, what happens, and I've done a lot of readings, guys, in 40 years, and I'd have a better chance winning a lottery compared to how many readings I've done, the jobs I've gotten, but we won't discuss that right now. But, you know, when you go out there, I have found that the casting directors range from over the top to hardly anything at all. And when you go in with your choice, that's the choice you have to go with. And sometimes there is no relationship there. They're looking at you. Do you belong in the part? And that was my point on that. I'm going to pass along here.
Well, I have a quick thing for that. It's different in every situation. There is no set rule of thumb. Trust me. I went over every production that we ever had, and I was in every casting session along with Alan Coulter, who did The Sopranos, did a project for us, Martin Campbell, who did all the James Bond films. They all work differently. I also had a director one time say, I hope that I can articulate this to you. We were doing a pilot to an actor, and he said, but I know what my limitations are. And I never heard a director ever say that before. And he said, I'm hoping you're going to be able to give me what I need from you. 9 times out of 10, 99 out of 100, whatever the percentages you want to use, when you guys come in and you've made it to the producer session after the casting director's worked with you, a lot of times actors will say, and some of you probably have, is there anything that you can tell me about the character, about the role, about anything? And they usually will always say, show me what you've prepared. Now, you've got to commit to that, whatever that is. Hopefully it's not, you know, like I said, the robotic, over-rehearsed, mechanical, deer in the headlights kind of thing. But if he gives you direction, then you have to be able to take it. One director I worked with that was an episodic, I was sitting right next to him, and he had the session sheet. he'd watch the actor come through the door, and then he kept his head down the entire time. Never looked at the actor, never looked at the monitor. I set up a monitor, I gave them options. They wanted to look at the actor live, or if they wanted to look at the option of the monitor. And he did it by ear. And it really, it was a very interesting factor for me to learn. He was the only director in all the years that I was there that did that, but that's how he did his casting. If it sounded real, and if it was believable, and if you step out of the room when you're watching television, and you're watching a film and you shut your eyes, and if it still sounds like that person's right next to you or in the room with you, they're getting all the beats, they're getting all the rhythms. I hate catching actors acting, and it pulls me out of it immediately. I like to be right along there with them, because then I'm feeling what a good actor is feeling, and they're internalizing it. And if you can do that, it's like magic. It's magic. But a lot of people are so self-aware, and that pulls them out, and it is distracting, and it is something that is not universally all across and cohesive. So.
Don't you think that don't you think that the self-awareness comes from that you are making it about yourself and not including the person in front of you? I mean, because Heather Locklear and all those people were in my class, Lisa Rin, all the Melrose Place time during your time, and I can remember Heather sitting in the corner being freaked out always when she came, and it was always what changed her was this concept that, you know what, if you take the other person in and let that person rescue you, even if that person isn't giving you anything, stop worrying about yourself and thinking about yourself and my choices and actually have thoughts, then basically it gets you out of worrying about, doing a good job or not.
Well, yes, but it's also, I think, listening to the other actor, because that other actor is going to be delivering their lines differently every day. And it's true what I believe Nancy said. When you're on set, you never know what's going to happen. If you're hired as a guest star and you're doing Charmed was one of my shows, and you're going on, and those girls know their parts forwards and backwards. They live, breathe, eat it. And you're hired maybe as an ARC or a guest star. You've got to be cohesive and you've got to mesh. They're going to deliver their lines however they want to, and it's maybe not giving you everything that you possibly can. But you have to just step in and make it work. And it's true, you will get pages change, especially in comedy. They're changing the jokes right in front of you. I did a show one time, and I was a nervous wreck because there were a lot of pages of dialogue. And we did the dress rehearsal, we went through it, and they came back and they said, we're taking this line out, we're adding this, we want an outburst, we want you to look at the judge at the end of this line. I was freaking out. I said, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this, but they wanted this natural sort of realistic delivery. And I do think it was the only episode that they never reran.
And can I interrupt? Can I interrupt you for just a second,
residual.
Pam?
Yeah.
I was going to ask Nancy. You made a comment about how you disagreed with what is it? I want to hear the disagreements in.
Well, personally, I pride myself on really being with the actors. Really giving to them. Maybe because I had a background studying with Strasberg, but for me, I get the chance to act all day too, and it's a pleasure. And I understand that there are times where you might be acting across a piece of wood. I get that not every cast, some casting directors, that's their forte, is to have the eye to discover talent, but they may not have had an acting background, so maybe they won't give as much, but I think it's not really fair to categorize it as all casting directors. And I think that...
No, I didn't say all.
No, but you said most, and I think that...
I'm not being defensive now.
No, it's okay. But actors shouldn't necessarily go in assuming it's going to be a disaster across the table. I agree that you need to relate to that person however you can. They're the other human in the room that you're reading with, and they're the other person in the scene with you. And I also think... does that answer that question, RJ?
Well, I think you hit it, Nancy, that it's variable to every office.
Yeah.
And I've been through every, over the top to whispering where I couldn't hear. It's hard to do.
Yeah.
And then they say, well, they want you to make a solid choice. That's all.
Yeah, and sometimes you do have to not only give your performance, you have to give the other character's performance too, to fill in where someone might not be giving to you. But that's part of auditioning too.
Yeah.
But I was also going to say that to be able to go with those changes at any moment, either on the set or in the audition. You know, don't cement
well, I agree. I went to read once with
Yeah.
Gene Blythe, who was a former actor. I think he's over at Disney, and he was a good actor. When I went into the room, I had all the choices and everything, but I could see right away he started playing with me, and it was like being on the set with another actor. So I let the choice go, and I just went with what Gene was doing. And that to me was a rare experience. And that isn't to say that the casting directors don't read well or they're not good actors, but it is to go back and say
Have
that
to
it's
defend
variable.
us.
Can I
Have to defend us.
I just want to get in here. But I would like to bring it round back to what you need. I think we all agree every audition's different, every casting director is different, the directors are different, and you have to be ready to improv, to get new script, to do what you know, live the life that you prepared, and ping pong with this human being that's across from you. And I mean, in my technique, and probably innately in all of ours in some way, there's a personalization there. I mean, if you know, you don't just have the casting director. It's a relationship between you and my father, or sorry, you're probably the same age as I am. I mean, I'm sorry. Younger, actually. No, but I mean, you have my daughter. Like, if your face was in the page, and in my heart is open to Mickey. And I know what I want and where I'm coming from and where I'm now and where I'm going and who I am and what my job is and what my objective is and if there's any physicality to work on, and my heart is open to this relationship, then I take whatever I can get from that person reading with me. But you're my daughter, you know, and I love that.
Sharon,
Basically, you know, let's talk about what you need and make sure we have time for Q&A. And
Sharon, I have a
know,
quick question
yeah.
for you before you continue and before we get on to your questions. Just want to know, you know, everybody's here has kind of talked about the nerves and going into an audition and being nervous and being up here and being nervous and, you know, being on set and they're changing things on you.
Yeah.
Can you give any insight as to how an actor can deal with the nerves, how they can turn it into kind of constructive nerves?
Oh my, well, I teach relaxation, and look at me, I'm a mess. The plumber's plumbing doesn't work. But anyway, I do believe in mental and physical relaxation, and I think just as great jazz musicians often talk about privacy and relaxation are really vital. If you learn how in your classes and in your studies to create privacy, then there is nobody watching. I mean, there's a relationship going on, and there's living energy going on, and you're in a place, and you're coming, you know, the more specific you are within the fourth wall with your choices, and you involve yourself with that reality and that living energy, then there's living truth going on. And I think another important thing everyone said that I very much agree with, which is if you sound like an actor, I don't like it. I don't know anyone that does. I mean, you know, if you sound like an actor instead of a human being, you've all passed by actors with in classes, or I've passed by classes, places, I don't know where, but actors they're practicing their scene together, and I walk by and I want to say, ooh, you just sound like actors, and right. I just zip my mouth up because they're not, I don't know who these people are. But, so, I mean, if you have to almost, we're all saying the same thing, so what can we do to help you? I mean, so it's pilot season, can we get it back to that somehow? I agree. I don't know.
Okay, with that, I'd like to transition to some of your questions.
I do have something. You know, one thing I do want to say, and I'll be brief, because I coach Ben Stiller, and he works and he directs, so I'm in on a lot of these auditions, and as I am with a lot of the other people, I'm in a lot of auditions with directors I work with and stuff. And like Justin Bieber, I coached last week for a CSI. He's never acted. And you know what Margie was saying is sometimes your coach knows you, and I mean Ben's been with me since he was 18, and Vincent D'Onofrio, and people I've known, they've been babies in my classes. So now I know that little thing, you know, in Full Metal Jacket, Vincent would call from London, say Kubrick wants to smile, and I don't know what the smile is, and we're doing 100 takes. And I remember saying, well, you know how when you look at me in class and you think, oh, Sharon, you're being so Sharon. And you give me that loving smile because it's like, so I said, personalize the sergeant with me or someone else. But you know them, so you can bring things out. But when I didn't know Justin Bieber, at all. And he's real busy. So like sometimes we all have to work really quick to see what we need to do to get to the work.
But it was interesting what you said, because I think what you hit it so much that I think it's important for them to hear that. When you said personalizing, which is such a big thing for everybody to understand. I mean, we could spend hours on that whole topic. Right. But what I think helps my students, just quickly, because it's pilot season, it's about that. Because when in your pilot season, if you are out there auditioning a lot, you don't have the time to do a lot of what you need to do. You have 3 or 4 auditions a day if you're lucky. But I tell people, and this is part of it, the person in front of you that's reading with you is 3 people, okay? That's your personalization, which is what you did. The person who you actually are reading with you, that person, that guy with the hat, the cute guy there is bending in that. It's going to affect me
and the
other person in the life, and the other person who's in the slice of life. The other, you call character. The other person in the slice of life. So I never get nervous, and because even now, when I'm up here, I have a purpose, but I also have a relationship with this guy with the hat. He's causing an effect on me. We have a little thing going on, and I'm not going to ignore that for the character. That's my whole point that I keep throwing out there for you.
And I like to personalize this. This is a question from Matt for Nancy. It says, my agent has asked me not to get a manager because I am booking enough. Are you receptive to managers? How do you feel about a manager pursuing an audition for a client?
I'm very open to both agents and managers pursuing auditions because both are part of the business and both have, the great opportunity to get through to a casting office and share their passion for a client. Yeah.
Okay, great. So next, Jory, we'll move on to you. This is from Christian. What do you think the best way is to get an agent?
Really, these days, I think it's really about having some physical evidence of your work there. I mean, I try not to get involved too much with my clients that way, but I have a few clients that, one client actually was 23 years old, had a really good manager, good agent, but she was sent out like 5 times, like the entire year. And so I said, that's kind of a flag there. And so, so I just said, why don't you send a letter out to them, and just to find out really where you stand here, because it was like literally a year. And I said, just be prepared because you're going to send this letter out, and that was the opportunity they're waiting for. So they basically said, well, funny you should say that because we really feel like we're not really matching up too well there. So now she's without a rep, and she's more energized. She's kind of like reclaimed, her career, her life there, because I think a lot of times, you kind of subjugate yourself to the beholden to the reps there, and I think you need to go out and we live in a technology in a time where you can grab a camera, grab some friends. I know some guys that didn't have any reps were going out and putting stuff on YouTube, or they or some of them were lucky enough to get something on Funny or Die, and they were able to start building a body of work there because again, pilot season's starting up, and either everybody's in full-scale mobilization there, and they have full-scale ADD that goes along with it. So so how do you kind of capture and gain their attention? And I think that's I see that happening more and more with actors, that they kind of disempower themselves. It's like you have to there's so much time. It's like a rent control kind of purgatory that you're in a lot of times there, and so you have to continue to build a body of work. You could do short films or whatever else like that, but getting a rep, it's a really challenging kind of thing. You need that hook, you need that mojo on yourself. If you're beyond a certain age, the harsh reality is they're going to say, okay, well, if we don't know who you are, then either that's for a reason or something, or we just need to, to fulfill our, needs within the agencies.
Yeah, and
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Sharon.
Just 3 quick things that I'm hearing a lot pilot season from directors. One is that people may they don't consider the job of the character. That seems to come up a lot this last month, which is, yeah, they're good, but they don't seem like a lawyer, or they haven't found the lawyer within themselves, they haven't done that. And the other two things is omitting your own sense of humor and dumbing yourself down in terms of making your characters not as intelligent as you are. And your characters, if there's a lot of actors don't realize a little wise ass in, is that okay to say, in the sides, even in what's Sorkin and that kind of material has been very prominent in the last number of years, which are intelligent people with a sense of humor working in dire situations sometimes. And very often people don't recognize what's in the material.
Okay, thank you. Pamela, do you have any other advice for people to get agents or managers? Is there anything you can suggest that Jory didn't suggest?
Well, it is very difficult. I'm just going to be very blunt. To get somebody that is especially new, that maybe isn't proven yet, because agents right now have a very limited amount of time to get their actors through. Because the pace is so fast, especially in television. It's just a blur. It's a miracle that we can do what we can in television with the quality, I feel. And I think everybody does an incredible job doing that. You go home bleary-eyed, and you don't know who you are a lot of times, but you get through it, and you get hopefully the best choices for that role. But I have an issue sometimes if people have an agent and a manager, because an agent, as you know, a SAG franchised agent can only take 10%. Managers can take anywhere from 10 to 15 to 20 to 25. The bigger actors, it's a higher percentage than they're paying publicists and so forth. I'd rather see the money go to the actor, because after you work, as you know, there's a lot of taxes taken out. There's a lot of other stuff in there that we really don't know what it is, but they list it on the check. And so
it's under getting screwed.
I know you're supposed to know what it is, but math is not my thing. I'm good at other things, but basically you will need a manager when you know you need one, and you will need one. If you have a choice between working into feature films and it's all about longevity, okay? It's all about what your longevity is. Some people want to do this maybe part-time and kind of thing, but a true actor that really wants a career at this is looking for longevity. So you constantly have to be looking. My choice today, how is this going to set me up for whatever it is I'm doing next? And you've heard actors say, my last job is kind of like, am I going to work again? Everybody feels that. We all do. But to get an agent is incredibly difficult, because you do have to have what they're looking for. A good demo reel is very, very good, but it's got to be so good. I got to be caught right at the beginning when I put it in. It's got to be something really special and exciting and not dated, and hopefully something current, a current credit will help as well, because you're proven. Somebody else has hired you, so they feel a little bit comfortable.
Can I? Oh, I was gonna just. I like to be the controversial ones tonight. I don't know what happened to me, but I don't mean to be so argumentative, but I have to say.
I know you're never going to bring me in for a reading.
No, I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking that I think that a way that sometimes in between auditions that you can do something proactive for yourself when you don't have a reel that you love is to put monologues on tape. It's kind of a practice thing for you to get comfortable with the camera, so that it's not that the only time you see a camera is when you walk into the audition room, and that always causes that sort of slight nervousness that adjusts your reading. But to constantly find interesting pieces of work, I love seeing monologues. I know that I'm not speaking as an agent or manager's perspective, but I think if you go meet an agent and you don't have anything on your reel since, 3 years ago that you were hired for, 4 years ago, you look completely different. If you could have a current amazing monologue that you did within the last 6 months, I think that shows your talent. And I think it says something, and it is that physical evidence. For me, I know, Pamela, what you're saying, it helps if you've been hired for something, but if you haven't in the meantime, I think it's a great sort of personal exercise.
Wait, I needed to finish my thought, Nancy, thank you. Another way that you can do that is there will be agents that will go to plays. I know it's not as extensive as it is in New York, but it's getting better, certainly, and that's another way. Another way, I think, if your friend has an agent, ask them, can you please try to set up a meeting? Can I please get into the door? Sometimes agents will hip pocket actors. And if you're getting good feedback when you do go out an audition, maybe they haven't signed you to a contract, but you're getting good feedback, it's all about money, guys. It's all about whether you can make your agent money and how they're going to be looking at the end of the day to the community. Don't forget that. It's a business. And that's really what it comes down to. So you want to be able to adapt to that as much as possible. It will happen. It just may not happen overnight or whatever. You can, what I did a film 2 years ago with all unknown actors. I was co-exec producer of the film. It was an independent film. I had all unknown actors who were brand new. They'd done a little bit of work. So what I did was I hired them, and they got fantastic film on themselves because we shot it with a red camera, and these were leads. So I would coach them off set in between scenes because they had a lot of dialogue to do, and it was a genre film, so we had very specific things. And if you're doing a genre film, a horror film, you can't anticipate being scared. You got to be scared right at that moment, take after take after take. So that was another good thing, and one of my actors got a fantastic manager out of that. So there's many different ways that you have to be creative.
Thank you, guys. This one comes from Lisa in Memphis. She says, this week one of my actors had an audition that opened with a fight scene. What should she do when auditioning on tape? Sharon, can you answer that?
Yeah, it really depends on the individual material, but I personally have actors drop down and do a bunch of push-ups, whatever they need to do to get their blood going right before the, right before slate, and do it fast because they don't have time. But a lot of my clients have you airbox, you do a lot of, but really, airbox. I mean, you can do some. It's so individual per the script. Like sometimes there's horror films where you're running and there's tentacles, and as she well knows, and you can't just stand there. So it's not going to be literal as written that you're slapping. If it says you slap, they slap you. Well, you can still feel somebody threw something at you. There's a physicality for the violence, and of course you don't touch that casting person or anything like that. But I think you have to create that moment emotionally and physically and get that carbonated. So does that answer the question?
I want to say that physicality is really important. It's your behavior that is more interesting than the words, and that people tend to think that the words are the important thing. It's actually not. Actually, silence is much more interesting than anything. And when you have a slice of life where you actually are going to hit somebody, better to receive it if you can, and if you're going to be kissed, better to experience the kiss. But you cannot just ignore it because it's a part that feeds you. I just want to say quickly about the manager thing. Student films, really a good thing to do. In my class, when somebody does something really well and I tape it, and I'll say to them, okay, I get excited. I'll say, let me show this to my friend who's an agent manager because it was a really exciting thing, and that's great work. Great work. Do things. One of my students could not get booked for anything, and wrote something and got a couple of friends together, and I helped them with it, and they did a little short film, and it is all over YouTube. It's excellent, and people are loving it. You cannot rely on your agent and manager because they will not be there for you 100%. And the other thing, I have somebody who I got somebody with William Morris. They needed a manager because William Morris is too big. So just because if you have William Morris as your agency, which is a great thing, this kid would be lost to death if it wasn't for the manager, who's not as strong as the agent, but is hungry. So
okay, thank you.
Definitely on the same page. Just if I could just take a second about behavior, and Margie couldn't be more dead on with that. It's all about behavior. The words are secondary. And for those of you who have the passion about it, it is a very tough business. but I know you can do it if you have the tenacity, and this is what is meant for you to do it, you're going to do it. I know that because I did it. If I can do it, you can do it. It's tenacity. It's up here. Do it. Do it.
Okay, thank you. Nancy, this question's for you. In auditions, do you expect an actor to come in off book? Does this have any impact on your decision to cast them?
I can't wait to hear this.
Absolutely not off book.
Thank you.
It's a work in progress. It should be a work in progress. It should be organic. It shouldn't feel, again, that's another way, I think the danger of that cementing that performance in too much, it kind of sends a message, this is it, this is as good as it gets. If you have the pages in your hand, also you don't have to put so much energy into the memorization. You can really focus on the heart and soul of the character. So
I want to comment on that because that's my kind of forte. I teach this thing it's called the Haber phrase technique, which teaches people to stay on the paper and allow themselves to use it, but to learn how to throw the ball and communicate. The reason why casting directors, if I'm not wrong, want you at times to memorize is because you're down here and you're doing this eye-bopping thing and you're not connecting. But when you learn how to use the paper correctly and you allow yourself to actually use it as part of your behavior, it's such freedom. So in my studio, I basically people do not memorize. I'm against memorizing.
yeah, but I heard what you said too, that you obviously don't want to be so wedded to the page and so not memorize that you are like
be able to
glued
use it, though,
it.
communicate with it.
And the camera sees into the soul through your eyes. So you want, not that you have to stare the camera down or the person you're reading with down and never lose eye contact, but you do want to have the freedom. And the more memorized you are, but I would always hold that page and not be
simply
totally
don't
memorized.
let the words own you.
Yeah.
You got to know them, you got to be in a book, but don't let the words own you. It is the behavior. It absolutely is all about that. It was what I started with when I said you're bringing yourself into the room. And the behavior is within you. It's your creative process based on your psychological makeup as a human being. There's nothing you become. Being is what you are. It's not something you do.
RJ, this question is for you. This comes from Mary on an email. At the urging of a couple of agents, managers, and casting directors from LA, I am bringing my 13-year-old daughter out for pilot season in August. Do you have any advice for us?
Oh, man. Be very careful. Do it very slow. Do your homework. What's her name, Mary?
Mary. Yes.
Yeah, Mary. Do your homework when you get out here. Stay away from Craigslist, please. That's how I got started. No, joke. But, and I'm sure everyone's going to agree with this. There's so much crapola scams going on. They're just waiting. They're hiding in the weeds for people like Mary to come out here. And it's not because people are stupid or anything like that. It's that it's LA. It's a big market, and they're game for that kind of stuff. You got to do your homework. You got to find out. If you get into a workshop, your coach can help you a lot. But there's research. You can get some fabulous books, the agency guide, the casting guides from Breakdown Services for one. There's a lot of information. Samuel French Bookstore has a lot of information. But even on top of that, do your homework. Google, come on, the internet. Make sure that whoever you're dealing with, they have to be licensed if they're an agent by the state of California. As of last January, there is the Krikorian talent law based on the California State Labor Code. And what that says basically is that any manager, agent, casting director, whoever related in the business along those lines tries to sell you any kind of photographic services, especially managers and agents, that's 6 months in jail or a $10,000 fine. And the city attorney of Los Angeles is eagerly going after those kinds of people. So there is protection out there. The key word is be careful, take your time, do your homework.
I'd like to just add something from a different point of view regarding line memorization. From some of the SAG panels I've been on, and I have a lot of friends who are casting directors, and we once we find out, look at the tapes and work with the actors. The truth of the matter is, from my experience, which is just as varied as each one of us out here, is that for a pre-read for a casting director, if you have time to learn those words, because hopefully you're trained as an actor enough, so you're not tied to the words. You're not going to intonate and have a line reading. You're living energy, thinking and living it anyway. So the more you know your words, absolutely the better. But for a casting director, this is sort of the inside thing that I've heard over the years, is that you have the sides in your hand, you know those words really well, so you can live it. And you can breathe it, and you don't need to look down at the page. But twice a page, you kind of glance down, and then you know when to turn it. So that, and then if it's screen test or on tape, you know those words. You don't look down at that page even once because they're filming you. This is at least from my point of view, and I'm
this
sure
is the thing, we're
everyone
going to have,
has,
everybody's going to have
yeah,
it,
exactly.
which is fascinating. But
Yeah.
I can tell you, there's a guy named Barry Watson who
I coach Barry.
yeah, Barry's my, so do I.
Wait a minute, I coached
Why don't
Barry.
we all coach Barry?
Wait a minute, I coach
We all
Barry
coach
too.
Barry. I could coach. We all coach Brad Pitt. We all coach Barry. Okay. All right. Barry's in my class now. Yeah. Barry's been in my class since 7th heaven. He's in my class right now. He's in my Wednesday. This is what he says to me, and I mean, so it's interesting. Cause it's interesting what he says to me. I never ever memorize it until I have to when I go to network, because or when they make me, because what it does for me, and this is what I find, is it makes me think. I could actually, people, if you're not solidly in it, you can see people's eyes going up in the head looking for the words. So to me, it's about how you use the paper, not whether you use it. And if you keep the paper here and you communicate, and then you allow yourself to throw the ball like that, you're not going to feel, no one's even going to know you're looking at the paper. So in my belief, it's more about the relationship than it is trying to remember the words.
And there are times where you're just required to memorize it, like a network callback, a network test. They will tell you ahead of time you have to. So in those instances, you do.
Well,
Okay,
hopefully
but-
you don't memorize the lines, and that's what you're thinking about when you read. I mean, you need to know your words where you're not thinking.
What
about
happens
them.
when they go on 3 or 4
Well,
auditions a day?
then you
That's-
learn the grab.
You-
Absolutely.
Yeah, initially it's a slow build to learning the material, but what I always look for, I got to know what's going on in your eyes, because you've got to be acting with your eyes and your face when you're not having dialogue. So as much as you can look up as possible and make that connection and make that focus, that's what I'm going to get on screen. And that's just as important than the words that are on the paper. Yeah, you got to know those too. You got a lot to remember as an actor, but you want to be able, when you're going over your material, just to keep being as familiar with it as possible. And if you need the paper for those first 2-3 auditions, that's fine. When you get hired, you got to know your stuff forwards and backwards, but show us your eyes if you can, especially in the first read, to the casting director, and definitely with the producer session.
Pamela, you're talking about thought. You're talking about the kind of thought where it's a human being thinking between the lines rather than someone thinking
No.
about what's coming up next?
No, I'm talking about both, because you will have scripts that you will have a lot of dialogue, but there will be a lot of times within that script where you're not talking and you are reacting to the other actor. And there's got to be something going on. If
Yeah,
you're
that's
the
what I
deer,
mean,
if
that
you're
thought.
the deer in the headlights, it's going to come across, that you're not connecting.
It's also
You're
funny at an
separate,
audition when
distracted.
whether it's in the room or on tape. A lot of actors do this. I don't know if you do, but they look down when it's the other person. They're clearly not interested in listening to what this relationship is saying to them, because they've said their line, and whether it's in the room or on tape, you say your lines as casting director, and the face goes down during your line. So so there is a technique which Margie clearly and all of us, but she has written a book, and I'm sure it's in there about I call it the grabbing, and you probably call it
staying down and communicating.
Right. But you have to learn how to grab and give and receive, and it's a technique, and you get
At least
better
all
and
of us
better
agree
at it.
upon one thing, I think, and that is that you just do not want to be on the page when someone's finished talking.
Because it's a relationship.
That's
It's a
what it's all about.
relationship. And the event, when you leave a room or a scene in a class, you should leave that event and feel like you and I went through something together. You and I went somewhere. I saw you. We saw each other. We heard each other. We noticed.
The next question comes from Sacramento, and he asks, "What's the best way to get an audition for pilots in Southern California if you don't live in Southern California?" Pamela, can you maybe talk about that a little bit?
Well, I personally think you have to be here. Yeah. I do. I think you are going to certainly up your chances. It's going to be very difficult. We used to look at a lot of tapes from out of New York for actors that couldn't come out, and then occasionally we would pay the plane trip for them to come out and audition for us. prior to going to the network. So, but then it got very costly. So people were doing tape, and I think it's harder to be cast off of tape, like somebody said out here, to be in the room, or maybe it was up here. It's a long time ago. It is better to be in the room, if possible, if you were allowed that luxury, because I think you can show more of your essence that way. You got to hit it on tape. And if you don't hit it, it's going to go to the side. So you want to give yourself every advantage that you possibly can, from your headshot, from your reel, from your performance, from the minute you step into our office. And if we're doing our job correctly, you're physically right for the role. And I've given you the tips on the tone that they're looking for, and that hopefully I've got a good director that will be able to give you good direction. And those projects are few and far between. One of the projects we did was called Kingpin with David Mills, who recently passed away, unfortunately. I loved him. He just was doing Treme for HBO. And he did a project for us that we did for NBC. And it was one of those projects that was the perfect scenario all around, with Alan Coulter directing. Molly Lapata was my casting director. We had a fantastic cast. It was gritty, it was edgy. We had the full support of the network, and it was one of those things that fully came around completely. And we flew a guy up from Mexico to test for it. Couldn't understand him. He would have gotten the role, and we got him with the dialect coach, and he was what we wanted, but it just didn't work out. So, but we needed to see it. We needed to see it in the room, and I do feel to get definitely in the running for pilot season, you should be in LA.
The other thing is attitude is so important. Someone mentioned this earlier. When you're given direction, or think of it as what a morsel someone's thrown at you, and you're all artists, and you're trying to take that bite and see where it goes. Directors and producers and networks do not want high maintenance. They don't want somebody that they have to take care of emotionally or step on, walk lightly. I mean, you have to have a sense of humor and a passion and a love, and not get all down on yourself and beat yourself up and get all worried, because isn't it annoying? Yeah. It's just annoying,
Well, and also
and young girls stop being little girls and little baby voices and little. I mean, you're smart and own yourself, and stop being little princesses.
Well, and I was gonna say too that time on the set is money. It's very costly, every minute on a set. So you do have to be able to take those adjustments quickly, because it's expensive.
Our next question comes from an actress who just blew an audition, and she is responding to the fact that you guys said that in the audition room you really have to be there with the casting director or the other actor. What would you say, how would you go about kind of preparing for this kind of, when you prepare everything and when you get into the room, you just kind of lose it. You forget your lines, you're not in with the other actor. Can you suggest anything that might really help, Margie?
Well, I think that the problem that exists, whoever asked that question, is that the preparation or the living the life happens so much earlier than when you walk into that room. And when people say, "Oh, I had it, and I was great in the bathroom, and you should see me, sitting on the toilet saying my lines. I was brilliant," or "I had it on the way to the car." My belief is you never really had it. If you really owned it, then it would just be a part of the life. Something that would throw you off would actually support you in a positive way. So to me, it's the fact that you guys are not blowing your balloon up halfway before you walk into the room. When you walked into that room and you were ready to meet with these wonderful casting directors, you were already there halfway. So so to blow it doesn't really exist. I blow it all the time. I mean, I mess up, good word, except the F-U-C-K. I mess up all the time. That's who I am. I'm imperfect. I like my imperfections. So what if I screw up in the room? That's a good thing. So share it. What the problem is, you get like in this Nixon thing, you like try to cover it up and pretend, it's an old joke, but it still works. So pretend that it doesn't exist. The truth is, We love when you make mistakes. Don't you love outtakes? I mean, the greatest part in the whole thing is outtakes. Outtakes is because you're human. And we watch it, it's so funny, it's so real. Yeah, because you're human beings, and you're allowing yourself to be imperfect. So when you go in there saying, oh, God, I need this job, and then you want to go, I hope I got my lines, I know exactly what I want to do it, and then all of a sudden you forget it. It's because you're not owning it, because you're not letting the other person cause an effect on you. I'm going to go back to the very beginning. The other person is more important than me. And when I let that happen, I allow myself to journey to some place that maybe is different than I thought it was going to be. And I embrace that difference rather than trying to hold on to what I thought was going to work. And that's the biggest problem people have.
Also, if you need to stop, I find casting directors, I'm speaking for you, I feel embarrassed, but they say, people say, I'd have to do it again. But the actor's not really clear why they're doing it again. And so you're sitting there going, okay, they're going to do it again. And there's nothing different. So I think you have to get very smart in terms of your craft and be very succinct, which is, I'm not really talking to you. I didn't really talk to you, or I didn't really look, so there's not a 12-sentence reason why you want to start again, which they don't have time for, nor is there, can I just do it again, because I don't know why. I just want to. It's just a little, I think and that's what class is for. You learn, was I not private? Was I not listening? And you start to learn a few short phrases, like 3 words or 4 words, like, I wasn't talking like a real person. Can we take it back? Or something succinct. And then... How do you
feel about starting over again? That's what I'd like to know.
I was going to say, I think there's degrees of screwing up. I think there's like the minor screw up that is so human, that is so vulnerable and so beautiful and endearing, and it totally draws you into the character, and that's beautiful. And a lot of times I think actors, I can see that they don't allow that to happen, and they just wind up beating themselves up, and they think of it as screwing up. The line, who cares? I don't speak perfectly. I don't know too many people that speak perfectly or in a linear way, so it's beautiful when that can happen. If you truly, all of a sudden, hear your voice, and you think, something has possessed me, and it is not this character, and I don't know what happened, but I just completely have gone off the tracks. And you notice that early enough in the moment, I would say exactly any of those phrases and say, could I start again? And as long as it's early on, if you're 99% through the scene, it's a little annoying.
I always tell my actors that if it's going to be the first couple of lines, you're fine. But once you're in it, take a transition, and in your mind, start again. Don't give up don't give up the baby, whatever the expression is.
It's a lack of focus. If you're going into the room and you're blowing it, which I think the question was, and you're fumbling your lines, it is a lack of focus to begin with. You have to be focused and concentrated. I've been on a lot of readings where I see actors in the hallway socializing. They're getting ready to go in for a reading, and they're out there having a big conversation about meeting later, or doing whatever. We won't get into that family program. But that's very distracting. That's very destructive to the process. You do have to be focused. Whether you're going to take Margie or Sharon's advice or Nancy's advice, anyone sitting up here, and you go in that room, whatever your process is, whether you're throwing it to the casting director or you have it in your mind where you've made a choice, whatever it is you're going to do, that still takes a lot of concentration. You have to have the focus, and when you have that, I think you'd be better off.
Okay, the next question is for the casting directors, and I know a lot of actors out there have the same question. If I send you a postcard, do you look at it?
Oh, I have an answer for that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Several years ago, we were doing a soap opera. We had never done one before. We were starting from scratch, and it was a daunting task because there's so many series regulars, and this was for NBC. And I think we needed anywhere from 23 to 30 series regulars. Very specific. If any of you have done soap operas, you know that the dialogue is like a half hour to just tell somebody you hate them, and or that you love them. And so the dialogue was just like these huge chunks that we were giving actors. And in fact, we did this nationwide search. Yeah, I got to go to Paris and all that. No. I went to San Francisco, and I went to Denver, where I'm from, Colorado. So that was really fun. And they do these long open calls, and we were able to pick a guy and a girl from each city to come back to NBC to screen test, because they still do those old-fashioned screen tests for soap operas. And making a long story short, I was back at Spelling, and I'm one of those people that I have to look at every piece of mail I get from actors. I don't throw anything away. I look at those cards that you guys send in about needing new representation, about, you know, please call me in, or a little note, how are you today, Merry Christmas, whatever. And there was this guy, we were looking for a role on Sunset Beach for the soap opera. And this guy sent a card in. I'd never heard of him before. I liked his picture. I'd never heard of his agent before. It was a little tiny SAG agent. So I called him in. I said, you know what, this looks like a role that we need. Looks like a guy that we need for the role. And I called him in. I got him over to Melinda Gartzman, who was casting for us. And Anna Marie Kostura was head of casting for NBC, along with Susan Lee. And they liked him. We went through the whole process. You read like 90 times to get that role. And he made it down between him and another guy, just from this postcard. And I was so excited because I was rooting for him the entire time. We ended up going with the other guy, which was more soap opera-like, but it just shows you that there is nothing that's impossible. You never, ever can give up hope. Yeah, there's certain things that are in your favor. There's certain things that aren't going to happen for whatever reason. And there is structure, and there is sort of a loose outline about the process. But, yeah, that's a true story. True story.
And going along with that, for the casting directors, do you prefer chocolate or Starbucks? And does that even help?
Chocolate.
Starbucks. Massage it.
Sharon, this question is for you. Is starting age a factor, especially for a woman? Do you lie about your age if you're maybe a little bit older?
I think you have to be realistic with your age range as an actor. And I remember teaching in a pilot season prep in New York. Somebody brought me out there to do it, and I didn't know these people. And I asked, well, you just send me your picture and resume and write your character breakdown if you were to describe yourself. And everyone was like, Julia Roberts, Cate Blanchett. These people were deluded. I mean, I couldn't, I was shocked that they honestly, it would be like me saying, I'm Jennifer Aniston type. I mean, I'm like 60 years old, you know? And so I find it strange. So my answer is that you have an age range. I don't think you need to say your exact age.
Like American Idol,
and if
isn't it?
anybody asked you your age, I don't know. I don't have I mean, if you want to lie. You don't. I don't really care. But you should know your age range and be realistic about yourself as a human being and value yourself for your individuality and be an artist and go home and have shrimp salad after you have an audition and don't go on a hike and have a life.
That's
and
great.
love what you
great
do.
advice. And flaunt your age, whatever it is. I mean, really, yeah, whatever. Flaunt your age. Don't hide it. That's how you're going to get cast.
So let me ask you this: is there any room for a new, older, say 60-plus-year-old actor in television and film at this time?
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I go to the club. I go to this club, Beverly Hills Country Club, and there's this guy there. He was in his 60s, and he said to me, you know, I know about you. I've always wanted to be an actor, and I've never pursued it and stuff. And he said, I'm retired now, and so he came to start taking some classes. I have different levels, and that other people teach in my studio, and the fundamental level. And he'd come to me after I'd see him playing tennis, and he said, oh, you know, I feel so good because Zach really taught me to listen and relationship. Anyway, make a long story short, 6 months later, he started doing commercials, and his whole life changed, and it's an end to a sad story because he died 3 years later. But here's the thing, the good thing, the sad thing, they died. He loved doing that so much. He actually fulfilled something he never thought he could do, and and it was fascinating to see that he actually was able to do it. So, can it happen? It's just don't go for that. Go because you enjoy the process. Enjoy the process, not the result.
Yeah, and strangely, I think we're always looking for new faces. I mean, we have lists of the established people we all know, but I think there's something exciting for any casting director to discover anyone at any age that's really cool and interesting and possibly new that hasn't been seen before.
Okay, RJ, what are the top 3 mistakes that actors make in pilot season?
Well, first of all, you know, I'm going to get a bunch of disagreements again. I'm like the evil guy on the stage. I don't really think there is a pilot season anymore. I think it just goes year round. I mean, there was a time, traditionally it was January to March or the end of March, 1st of April. But I think because of all the network and the cable and all the stuff that's being done, it's just kind of endless. It goes all the time. So, you know, I think what you do is you got to put yourself out there, guys, and you have to work 7 days a week. I tell my students this all the time. It's not something you think about twice a week in the workshop or 3 times a week. This is a 7-day-a-week venture where you have to live your passion, live your life as an actor, and do whatever you can to progress and move forward your career. And there's nobody to stop you but the person looking back at you in the mirror every morning, and I never talk to that guy. He's got more bad advice. I mean, I just think very positive about what I'm trying to do and make my way through it and then concentrate on that. And I think if you do that, I really mean this, that there is no such word as, no is just a temporary word for yes. I really believe that. If you're persistent and you work really hard, you'll get what you want.
I like that one.
Yeah, it's in your book.
You're right.
So, Pamela, this question is for you. What's the audition process like when an actor goes for a pilot reading with the network?
Okay, this is after you have read for the casting director. This is after you've read for the director, the showrunner, and the internal producers in studio, which is where I oversaw the casting. Then I work very much closely with the networks to ensure that we're bringing them the choices. There's no surprises about who we're bringing in, but it's a very collaborative effort. It's not just one person that's bringing it in. We all work together to come up with the best solution, and we want the best choices because we want longevity in that series. After 5 years, you can syndicate, which is what everybody is dreaming of. And when the actor gets to the network, it's tremendously intimidating. It's intimidating for me, for all of us that are in there, because you have all the network executives and they're counting on you to bring the best choices, that they're prepared, that they're ready, and that they're going to give you everything possible. One of the most difficult times was at CBS. You're down in this basement and you're in a theater and you really can't see anybody and there's lights happening and you've got to act your best. It all goes back to what I was talking about way earlier about adapting. You never know. We let the actors go through. I always want the actors to go through to see where they're going to be and what kind of is happening in the room, just so that you can have that little bit of comfort, just a little bit, for a very short time. But then you got to shine, because this is your golden opportunity to get hired. And it can happen that quickly, and it can change your life that quickly. However, you then maybe get the job, and you go to upfronts in May in New York, and we all go and we present all of you. For some reason, they decide that they want to recast you. And you've already told everybody, you've bought the car, you did everything possible, and for whatever reason, there's just something that didn't happen. So a chemistry reader didn't test well, or something happened along the lines that somebody changed their mind, and then we have to recast. When you go to the network, sometimes it's just in an office. So again, you're adapting. It can be a very tiny office packed with people, and they're all staring at you. And you feel very self-conscious and very uncomfortable. But you got to shake all that off. And again, it goes back to focus. So psychologically, you got to say, you know what? I've got every opportunity, I've got every chance to get this job just as much as anybody else. And you got to just do your best work. That's all you can ever ask of yourself. And then you just got to leave it alone. Once it's over, it's over. And hopefully they'll remember you for something else. That happens a lot. So it's, for me, I think it's a very beneficial thing, especially if you can get to the network, because it's getting them to know you, it's getting them to remember you, and maybe using you in another project if it isn't the one that I brought you in on.
Well, now,
So.
Jury here is a little high on Vicks cough drops. He's been very quiet. So do you have anything else you want to say, pal? I mean, you're done?
Yeah,
Are you?
my voice is done, sorry.
I will translate.
I also think it's important that we keep focused on you, because my guess is if you're here, you probably aren't going up for 3 pilots a day. And I mean, there might be a few of you who have the agents and the managers, and you're going up a lot, and you're in there. But how can we help you that may not be in that situation? And I think one of the ways to get to pilot season, if that's what this workshop is about, is start building what Pam was saying about relationships, and what Margie and the other wonderful panelists have said is care about your craft. And to love living these people, and put yourself out there, though. Like, I did a SAG foundation with Paradigm and Gersh and Donna Morong, and it was another foundation panel we were on. And the Paradigm and Gersh agents were saying that they have teams there watching YouTube at their agency, and one agent said, join us local softball field, a softball game, or those teams in your neighborhoods, and put YouTubes on and write things, and go to open mic nights in the clubs, and create short films, like AJ said, with your friends. And,
RJ.
And I mean, I'm sorry.
2S.
That's my nerves,
that all the
RJ.
time.
I apologize. But it's a combination of your art and being out there. And then start with the 5 lines. And then you might build a relationship on that set with someone, and before you know it, you've got a scene in a nice thing. And then after maybe 5 guest spots, you'll be able to get a good manager or agent. You have to build.
It's a process.
Yes.
It's a process. But I think this is. I'm sure you all know who Gabriel Byrne is, and
Yes.
the wonderful actor. And he gave me something. And seriously, this is not to promote my book. I make 90 cents on the book. I don't really care about it. This is really, really about something that Gabriel wrote in my book that I think is such great advice. And it's like half a page, so I just want to share. It's about auditioning. It's about what you talk about. And I think he produced Name of the Father, and he shared this with me, and I want to share this with you. I'll do my phrase technique. Let's see if I can do it with the light. Okay. But I just want you to hear what he has to say. I think it's very interesting. When I went to London to become an actor, I was out of work for a year. It was very difficult for me during that time to convince myself that, as an Irish actor working in London, the situation would ever change. After 6 months, I began to despair, and I began to think that I would never, ever get work. And after 9 months, I was convinced that I should never be an actor. Coming up on 1 year, I was thinking about all kinds of employment. Then one day, I walked through a door and got 2 jobs, 2 movies on the same day, because I had changed my attitude. I no longer was in awe or in fear of the audition process, because I really didn't care anymore. And I had learned a very valuable lesson. I learned to separate myself from my work, so that if my work was attacked, it didn't necessarily mean that I was a bad person. And when it was praised, it didn't necessarily mean I was a good person. I also stopped depending on my work to make me happy or sad. I tried to work on myself outside of my work and make myself a more rounded and interesting human being. And that was very important, because actors are taught that the only thing that's important is acting and getting jobs. But life also goes on, Yeah. And I just thought that would be something that pretty much sums it up for me.
Okay, so we're kind of running out of time. I have one last question for you. Maybe we can kind of go down real fast and get some good answers.
I doubt that. Real fast, yeah.
What do you think the best thing to say and do to close the audition for a pilot would be to be kept in consideration? Pamela, can you?
You mean after the audition?
After the audition, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Could you ask the question again?
What is the best thing to say and do to close the audition to be kept in consideration? Is there anything that you can do?
I think just thank you. I think keep it simple. You don't want to show that you're desperate, certainly. We know you want the job or you wouldn't be there. One last closing comment I want to make is the goal, guys, is just to be as consistent as possible all the way through your read, all the way through, not in portions, not in parts, especially when you get down to really being considered at the network or for a film or what have you. James Cameron, you know, we just read in the newspaper not too long ago, spends 2 hours with his actors that he's considering for films and really goes over every single piece of the script. And that's how he makes his choice. He wants to make sure he's not going to make a mistake. So I think you can be as consistently great as possible. That's it kind of goes without saying, which we all should do in everything that we do. But if you think about it, that's what you want to try to do. And that's a mark of a good actor, I think.
Okay, great.
Are you done? I'm done. All right. I'll say it for him, for both of us. Pamela already said it. I usually say, that's a nice shirt. My mother bought me a shirt like that. No, it's just a simple thank you, you know, and you say thanks for the opportunity and go out the door. It's that simple. You know, what else you going to do? Beg and plead, like I told you early on. We could have ended this an hour and a half ago. Margie.
Margie, do you have anything different to say?
You live the life, you leave it, and then you go to the next moment. And you let it go and enjoy the experience of it and be happy you had that moment and leave with your power. And the power is that they need you as much as you need them.
I think you say thank you, and you know, we're grateful that an actor comes and gives us their passion in that audition, and you say thank you to the casting director. It's just courtesy, but I think you do then go live your life, and I think the process is a marathon. A career is a marathon, and you know, if you're running and you take time off, you're rusty. You know, it's good to be in the groove all the time. So even though you're in between auditions, do whatever you can, short films, theater, classes, coaching, everything to keep that muscle warmed up so that when you do get that audition, you can go in and be already in the groove. So,
Sharon, anything else?
String of Pearls is an image that there's a therapist that is in LA that a lot of celebrities have gone to for many years, you know, when they go through their own insecurities. I mean, the insecurities don't end, and I love what you all said about, I say you're going to embarrass yourself for your rest of your life, and I'm glad I will, and embrace it. And once you get over that, then you will never be perfect, and you'll never stop humiliating yourself. And it sort of becomes kind of not humiliation anymore. But he had this image of a string of pearls, which I thought was creative visualization, kind of interesting, which was that the string and the little knot before the pearl, all the pearls are the same size, so no one audition is more important than another, or experience, or class, or it doesn't. Anytime you do work, it's the same pearl, and the knot before the pearl is the preparation that you must do as an artist before the job, the experience. And then the pearl's the experience. The knot after is the reevaluation. What do I have to learn from this experience? And the string is going on to the next knot, the next pearl. And if you keep seeing it as that, I always liked that image. I thought it was good.
Yeah, but no matter what, when you leave an audition, you still go home to your family. Your car is still going to be out, maybe not. But you'll still have your family, and you'll still have you, and you keep working for the next day.
Okay,
Just
well
keep up the spirit.
that does it for us tonight. I'd like you to thank the panelists. And thank all of you guys for watching and your time tonight.